Welcome to Unity Church. I'm Rev Deb, going to be your platform assistant for Reverend Gio today. We have Larry and Ingrid and David and our song leaders, and we're blessed. So we'll begin our service by saying our affirmation for this month of November, which is right here. And we'll affirm this together. Being thankful is a powerful mindset. I count my blessings every day. I am grateful.
Good morning. Today's daily word is grace. In grace, I release every sense of limitation. The spiritual idea of grace is often considered in terms of related words, such as gracious and graceful. They suggest a sense of grace as a quiet state of consciousness that helps us to create an easy, peaceful life and experience. Grace can be all of that, but is also so much more. Grace is the power I lovingly convey whenever I recognize and express my Christ presence. The Bible reminds me that Stephen, my namesake, one of the earliest converts, being, quote, full of grace and power, did great wonders and signs among the people. In expressing the quality of grace, I find the clarity, peace, and power to accomplish the spiritual work that is mine to create. In grace, I release every sense of limitation. And the quote for today is, "For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under law, but under grace." Romans 6:14. Thank you. Okay, the affirmation for today is grace in, and if you would repeat with me, in grace, I release every sense of limitation.
And now I invite you to visualize our sanctuary as a beautiful heart. And we see this heart moving in and around and through each one of us. So just allow this heart to be filling our sanctuary back into Sunday school with our children. And we know that we are blessed. We're filled with love and caring, compassion for ourselves and each other. And just breathe into this heart space, allowing that love to fill you, filling you so much that there's more than enough to go around. And in these moments, if you know of anyone in need of prayer, see them in our heart. And if you know of any circumstance in your life or in our world in need of prayer, see them in our heart as we say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
In this moment of gratitude, I invite you to take a deep, deep breath. And as we centered into that heart that Deb invited us to envision, I'm going to invite you to remember that your heart is at the center of that. Your heart is the place where all of your life begins. As we recognize the wondrous power that our master teacher pointed us to, we see that each heart in the sanctuary is connected to the other, connected in this entire building, all over this island. That sense of love and compassion and peace that centers into your heart begins with you. As we affirm and recognize that love begins with me, we see that peace begins with me. life begins with you. And as we hold this consciousness, this awareness, we do so with humility. We do so with grace. And we do so right here and right now in this sacred and holy silence. As we gently and easily return our awareness into this time and place, into this very room, we recognize that we might go through and to the rest of this day, fully aware that love begins with me, that gratitude begins with me, that peace begins with me. And so we let it be. And so it is. Good morning. I'm going to tell you that it's really good to be home. And that was actually a new idea for me not so very many years ago, that no matter where I go, I am at home in my heart. As I arrived on the Big Island for the first time, I think in about 20 years, I was reminded of that and shared with a few friends of mine that it's good to be home. Because you see, as we center into our heart, as we center into where we might be in that present moment, there's an action of the heart that takes place. That action is the very thing that creates our entire life. We can do and accomplish things that were previously unforeseen or unexpected. You see, as I center into my home, this place in my heart, I can create an amazing life. And when I stop and really look, I've had an amazing life. And if you stop and you really look, you've had an amazing life. The truth is that each of us is here to express this vast amount of divinity and wonder and love with an action of the heart. This morning I'm going to invite you into that action of the heart by recognizing that we are presently in this season of gratitude. And I'll let you know that over the course of this last week, I've been kind of wondering, can you have gratitude without love? Can you have love without gratitude? We have a tradition in our nation that this is known as Thanksgiving. And this Thanksgiving is a time when I want to be grateful to the God within me, to express that attitude of gratitude within me in order to create an amazing life. Each and every one of us has that opportunity. And I can only imagine that perhaps one, maybe two, perhaps even three of you are thinking, yeah, right. Whatever he says. I wonder what I'm having for lunch. Oh yeah, there's that game. Or maybe the other things are crossing your mind. But instead of that particular skepticism, I'm going to ask you to refocus on the possibilities that are available to you. I've just recently traveled from the island of Oahu to the island known as the Big Island. And one of the things that I'm always aware of about traveling is that there's every opportunity in the world to complain. You see, there's this little device that you can use in order to forward slides on a computer. I have two of them. They're both sitting in the sanctuary at Unity Windward. And when I first realized what I'd done, I thought, how could you do this again? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is that really the choice and the voice that I'm gonna give power to? Instead, I actually get an opportunity this morning to be in relationship with Diana, because she's gonna advance the slides for me at that particular time. Yeah, you're doing great. We're doing really well. Thank you. Yeah, let's give Diana a hand. Thank you. How often do we not affirm ourselves for getting as far as we've been? Instead, we sometimes focus on what's lacking, or what's the thing that we're afraid of, or what's holding me back. What if we decided to focus instead? What if we used an action of the heart to spread energy, to feed energy to all the stuff that's amazing? All the things that are incredible. Many of you know about the Unity Pacific Rim Region School. This lady right over here was actually involved in it. But as little as 6 years ago, it didn't exist. When I moved to Oahu, I knew that something within me, there was a spirit within me that was moving me to a new possibility. I received a calling to ministry in my teens. And I did the best that I could to ignore it and pretend like God had dialed the wrong number. You know, he meant to push a 6 and he pushed a 9 instead, or something like that. But what I recognize instead is that I was willing to risk, with an inner knowing moving me along into what could be a possibility. Rev Deb has committed herself to ministry and has created an amazing church right here, an amazing spiritual community. So I'm going to ask that we take a moment to affirm her as well, to recognize all of the amazing things that she has done and accomplished in the spiritual community. Let's give her a hand too. Let's see her in brilliant, radiant vitality and life and love. And you know what you could do? You could stop and say, well, this is a shopping center. What's a church doing here? Let me assure you that that has crossed my mind as well about Unity Windward. You see, we're in a 3-story shopping center. And when I focus on the limitation rather than the possibility, there's a barrier that comes up in my heart. What I'd like to do today, what I'd like to do in every unfolding moment, in every opportunity that I have to complain, or focus on the negative. I'd rather shift instead in my action of the heart to what's really going on. What kind of good is truly happening in my life? Because as I focus on that, I can awaken to a new possibility. I can invite and enlist other people into something amazing and incredible. Unity is oftentimes called new thought. Let me assure you that there is nothing new about it. As a matter of fact, Jalaluddin Rumi from the 13th century once wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." Whatever negative story, whatever story of fear or limitation may be going on in your brain, break down that barrier. Make a decision today to live in this season of gratitude, to truly recognize the wondrous possibility that's available to every one of us. As Reb Deb mentioned earlier, there's a publication that she has put together that's available for all of you to have 40 days of thankful living. Now, the original intention of this was that you would use it for the 40 days before Thanksgiving. And I'm going to ask you to not live within that limitation. There's a whole bunch more of these, and she wanted to be sure that anyone and everyone would have it available for them in order to live in this wondrous possibility that is the action of the heart I'm talking about. So be sure and pick up one of these, and even though something in your brain or somebody might tell you that it's past time for that, it's definitely time for that, is what I have to say. This season of Thanksgiving is what we can step into now. The truth is, it's never too late. Just the other day during class, I arrived and Deb said, "We've made some coffee," and I had a cup of Starbucks in my hand. And when she said that she was sorry that she'd made some coffee, it's probably going to get hot or whatever the case, and I said, "There's never enough." And I caught myself. There's always enough. That's actually an experience of seeing how there's wondrous prosperity available for us all. So what am I going to focus on today? Am I going to focus on fear or what's lacking or limitation? Or do I want to focus on a beautiful relationship that's possible because someone made me coffee? Isn't that cool? How often in our lives do we simply take for granted the amazing miracles that are taking place on a daily basis? How often in our lives do we stop and forget that we can increase all that much more gratitude, all that much more blessing, all that much more vibrant life in our world? The co-founder of the Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, once wrote, "It has been found by experience that a person increases his blessings by being grateful for what he has." Have you stopped today to consider to be grateful for what you have? Most of us have busy, active lives. You know, there's what the boss is doing, and there's, oh yeah, I was supposed to have that done the other day, and there's all sorts of other things that go on in our little scurrying about. But I wonder if we might take a moment to truly recognize the presence of goodness that's already here. I wonder if we can take a moment to truly recognize how great you are. You are created in the image and likeness of God. And as that image and likeness, you were meant for greatness. You were meant for being a spectacular expression of life and love. There's another Unity author by the name of Eric Butterworth who once wrote, "We have a choice to be great or small. When we are grateful, we are great. When we become lax in the expression of gratitude, we become little people with little minds." Now that sounds derisive, it sounds judgmental even. But the other interesting aspect of that is, have you ever felt like a little person with a little mind? I think at one time or another we all have. But there is a choice that we have. There is the ability within us to use that action of the heart to create a wondrous possibility for ourselves, for everyone with whom we're in relationship in our lives. As I said before, unity is oftentimes referred to as new thought. And there's nothing new about it. Over 2,000 years ago, there was a man by the name of Paul who was writing a letter to some friends of his. In that letter, he said, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Do not quench the Spirit." Let's no longer quench the Spirit. Let's relish in it and allow it to flow in our lives. And by the way, that thing that he says, pray without ceasing, in my opinion, it's not something that he's asking us to do, nor was he asking the guys in Thessalonica to do it. I think that he was actually saying, you're praying all the time. Be mindful of what you're praying. What you think about, you bring about. So what will you focus your mind on today? What will you focus your heart on today? How can we recognize in this season of Thanksgiving how we have so much to love and so much to be thankful for? One of the beautiful things about unity is that we honor, respect, and recognize that there are many, many pathways to God. One of the pathways to God that has been significant in my life is a work known as A Course in Miracles. From A Course in Miracles, it says, love cannot be far behind a grateful heart and thankful mind. God enters easily. For these are the true conditions of your homecoming. I'm so glad to be home. Won't you come home with me? Because you see, no matter where we go, no matter where we might be on this planet, we are indeed at home. Each of us is at home in our heart if we would but shift our attention and shift that action of the heart to be more fully aware of it. Let's make a decision to be loving, to be thankful, to recognize how there is a wondrous payoff to that. That each of us is here to be at home, to no longer feel alone, to no longer feel any fear, to truly know and recognize God is here, living in me. The co-founder of the Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, never intended to form a church. Well, look around you. You got a little bit of a church going on here. And it's actually a whole lot more than just a little bit of a church. Each and every one of us in this room has the potential and the capacity to affect this entire planet with goodness, with greatness, with life and vitality. In this church, we can recognize our wondrous potential. And this church is not contained within this wall, within these walls. It is contained in our lives. Charles Fillmore wrote about this when he once said, "The true church is not made of creeds and forms, nor is it contained in walls of wood and stone. The heart of man is its temple, and the Spirit of truth is the one guide into all truth." Won't you go to church with me as well as come home? let's go to church for the rest of this day. Let's recognize that it's not confined to that period of time between 10 and whenever we're finished. Let's recognize that what we have the power and the potential to do in our lives and in this world is to invite each other into a wondrous new possibility. I've been told that the Hawaiian people had a significant saying that you've seen written, and you've probably even said it before. E komo mai, which means welcome. Someone not long ago introduced another idea to me that is along that same line, which is e komo mai I ko pu'uwai, which means welcome home to your heart. May we recognize that right here and right now, we are at home in our heart. That there's no longer any sense nor reason for fear or limitation. And if we choose to create a life of complaints and difficulty, that's our responsibility. We can indeed choose a life of wonder and awe. The God within us is desiring to create that in our world and in your life. Welcome home. Aloha.